It's almost been 2 years since I got in a lawsuit over the Outbound Ghost, which is my most popular game. And because of the circumstances related to that, there haven't been any updates to the game. The game actually became unavailable to buy, and many Kickstarter backers didn't receive the rewards that they were promised. But I'm super happy to announce that everything is now completely resolved, and the Outbound Ghost is now available again on Steam and Switch and soon on other platforms, and it's fully self-published by my studio, Conradical Games. So please watch the whole video, because near the end of it, I will let you know how you can find out some of the details behind the lawsuit if you want to, and a lot of the stuff that I cover in this video will be of interest to you if you're a player of the Outbound Ghost or if you're a Kickstarter backer. So right now you can get the original version on Steam, but for Switch, many of you will know that it launched with performance issues, particularly in loading times and in frame rate, but actually over the past few months, we've been self-porting the game entirely from scratch, and the update that fixes both of those things is live right now. So you can go to your Switch, you can update it, or if you buy the game now, it should automatically be installed. And just for a little comparison, this is the loading times that you used to have before whenever entering a combat, right? So I'm just gonna let it play. I'm just gonna speak a bit. I think if I recall, it was about 30 seconds per combat. And this is what it looks like now when you're loading. So quite a big difference. And in terms of frame rate, I'll also put a side-by-side comparison here, and you can see we really improved the game. All self-ported, and from now on, all of my games will be self-ported in-house. Of course, it was our first time porting, so there are going to be some issues here and there. So over the next few months and weeks, we'll be fixing all of the issues that crop up. So if you find any bugs, please report them by sending me an email at the address that you can see on screen right now, or you can join my Discord, which the link for it is in my description. So some of you might be wondering, what about the roadmap, right? It's not only about the performance. You guys want to have some new content. Are those features still going to be added? And yes, and some of them are already in the Nintendo Switch build that you can play right now. The Steam version is still the old one. That one didn't have the performance issues, so we decided to prioritize Switch. But don't worry, over the next weeks, the Steam version will be updated as well. And by the way, after everything happened, the game was review bombed in my support, but this obviously really hurt the game in the Steam algorithm. So if you were one of those people, I would really appreciate it if you change a review if you like the game. And if you're a new player and you never reviewed the game, then helping us out that way would also go a super long way. But in regards to the roadmap, the game is fully localized right now on Switch to French, German, and Spanish. And the soundtrack made by the fantastic Kimo is also fully remastered, and the link for the soundtrack is in the description. And also the status presentation rework is also in there. But what about the other stuff, right? There's still some things missing. Well, those will still make their way to the world of Outbound Ghost, but in a different form to what you were expecting. So I know what I'm about to say might make some ears twitch, but please listen to the whole explanation and you'll see why. So on top of releasing the Outbound Ghost today, I'm actually announcing a new standalone game as well in the same universe, and it's called The Outbound Ghost Reborn. So it's got an entirely new story, new characters, new locations. The only thing that's really similar to the game is that it's using the same codebase and engines, some similar locations, and of course the general IP and returning characters. So a good way of thinking of this game is almost comparing Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask. It's the same kind of engine, but it's a different game for sure. Or a bit like Yakuza, because you return to the same locations, but the sequels are very much distinct games. And so I know what you might be thinking, does this mean that I'll have to buy an entirely new game to get the features that were promised for the first game? And the answer is no. So for console, it's a bit complicated, but I can guarantee two things. If you're a Kickstarter backer, you will get a key for the Outbound Ghost Reborn. No questions asked, you're gonna get that game entirely for free. And if you're a Steam player, then we've talked to Steam actually, and we managed to get it such that if you already owned the Outbound Ghost, the original game, before the Outbound Ghost Reborn comes out next year, you will also get the Outbound Ghost Reborn entirely for free. So if you go buy the Outbound Ghost now at a reduced price, you get 2 games for 1. So we're trying to do the same thing as we have on Steam for PlayStation and Switch, but because we're a small company, we don't really get exceptions made for us, and these systems aren't really built for this sort of stuff. So if you're gonna buy the original game just to get the new game, don't do that just yet, because it might not be guaranteed. And if we can't do that, then unfortunately we just can't offer that. But hopefully the old game will be so much more improved that it'll be worth it anyways. So before I get into more details, like for example, the physical copies of the game, you might be wondering which of the roadmap updates are included in the Outbound Ghost Reborn and which ones are not and are just included in the original game. Well, firstly, we'll be bringing more languages to the Outbound Ghost, both of them, and that's going to be traditional Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. And then on top of that, we're also going to be bringing additional post-game bosses to the game, like we said in the roadmap. But actually, all of these bosses are going to be related to Reborn in some sort of way. So they might feature new figments, and if your memory is a bit hazy and you don't exactly remember what those are, they're basically like party members, or if you're comparing it to Pokemon, they're like your Pokemon. And we're also going to be bringing New Game Plus to the original Outbound Ghost sometime in early 2025. And of course, we're also going to be adding general improvement based on your feedback. And so then the remaining stuff is going to be included in the Outbound Ghost Reborn. The game will have a side quest system, the whole UI is already reworked actually, and in the end we decided not to add the party chats feature since it felt a bit tacked on. But instead, Reborn will have some story areas where you can have some special interactions with your party, so it makes it up in that way. And this is why we decided to include the updates as a standalone game instead of a new update, because the additions are going to radically change the game so much that it would really mess with save files and just general progression and the overall identity of the game. So we decided to really go all out and make the game as fresh, original, and good as possible in a standalone version instead of being held back by a version that you can already play anyway. So that original version is always going to be out and preserved for everybody to experience the start of the Outbound world. So if you want to support me after the last 2 years and you never got a chance to play the original version of the Outbound Ghost, you can go get that now, and at the very least on Steam, you'll be able to get Reborn entirely for free. It's an entirely fully fledged new RPG when it comes out next year. So then what about the physical version, right? That version really had some serious issues on the on-cart build. But actually the good thing is that because that build is tied to the digital version, you can just go download the game, download the update actually, and you'll be able to play the good and performant version of the game right away. But I do know that many of you collectors want a good version of the game that has a good on-cart build, and there might be a solution, but I'm not entirely sure if it makes sense. Basically, in the middle of transferring the game back to me when everything was resolved, I got access to something that is quite crazy and super uncommon for indie developers, and that is that I can actually manufacture my own physical Switch games now if I wanted to. So quite crazy how that worked out, but unfortunately there's still 2 more problems, and that is that while I can manufacture the games myself now, it's crazy expensive to do that, right? There's a minimum amount of copies that you have to manufacture, and so that's not a problem if there's enough demand, because you can just manufacture beyond the minimum or at the minimum. But the thing is that retailers don't actually want the game because it's already come out and it's just like a reprint, right? That's not super interested to them. So the only way ahead would be direct to consumer. And so that brings me to the potential solution that I wanted to run past all of you. But again, I'm not really entirely sure if it's what you want. And so the idea was that maybe I could run a Kickstarter just for the physical version, right? So I know a lot of these physical companies have like a limited pre-order system, like you might have experienced this if you buy games from Limited Run, but you know, I don't really have my own website for that. So Kickstarter is a way to make the same thing happen, but without having to set up a whole website for that. So do let me know if you're one of the people that do want a brand new printed version of the Outbound Ghost, and if you are, if the idea of a Kickstarter appeals to you. So yeah, the Outbound Ghost is back, its universe is expanding, and everybody who was promised something will eventually get it. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, there's a link below with all of the court documents available for the public in case you want to see the exact details of what happened, so check that out if legalese is of interest to you. It took a lot of time, effort, and money to get to this point, but I'm super happy that I can finally close this chapter and move on to focusing solely on releasing more awesome games. So again, if you want to support me after everything that's happened in the past 2 years, you can go get the Outbound Ghost right now, or if you want to get one of the new games that I develop under my self-published label, then there's this game called Soul Stalker, which is a paper-styled bullet heaven roguelike coming out to Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam on October 24th, and it's all self-ported by us as well, so if you want to support us beyond just getting the Outbound Ghost, you can go get that as well. So the next video will be Soul Stalker's release devlog, but of course I'm going to be making tons of Outbound Ghost devlogs as well, so I'll see you for that, and thank you so much for tuning in and for sticking with me for this crazy journey. I'll see you next time. Bye.